This is a video to demonstrate the general journal, and we're going to use a journal from now on instead of using the T accounts. The T accounts were pretty tricky to use because you had the same transaction in two different places when you use the T accounts. But the journal is a little bit better because it's going to put all parts of the transaction in one place. So think of the journal as a diary. It is a diary. It lists chronologically the transactions that occur in a business. So it's like a diary for the transactions. There's 4 parts to a journal entry. You need a date, you need a debit, you need a credit, and you need an explanation. And well, you need an amount. And the debits have to equal the credits. So I have 2 sample transactions here. In this case, we're going to assume that it's a spa, and the spa provides manicures, pedicures, you name it. And in the first transaction, the spa performed a manicure for a client, and the client paid $75 cash. Here's how you do this. You still analyze the transaction the same way we did before. So ask yourself what happened in the transaction. You have to have at least two things that happen. So if we performed a service for a customer and we're a spa, we're earning revenue. This is a source of revenue for the business. So the source of revenue account that we're going to use is called fees earned. So if you provide a service and you notice in the transaction that it's revenue, this is a fee earned. Okay, so we've got revenue, fees earned, and the customer paid cash. Here's how a transaction works in the journal. We're going to start with the date. So write October 31st in your journal. And in the particular section, what I'd like you to do is always, always, always list the debit portion of the transaction first. So I know that cash went up, and I know that cash increases with a debit. So I'm going to debit cash in the journal. And a debit means left, and if you write the account on the left side in the particulars column, this means a debit. Go over here, and now you have a spot where you can put the amount in. And in this case, it's $75. I would do it like this. And I just put a dash in the last box because we're not doing any cents here, or decimal places. Okay, I've got a debit portion. I've got a date. Now I have to credit revenue, and the revenue account is fees earned. Credits in the journal look like this. Bump it over to the right, so sort of indent it, and write the account name. Fees earned. $75. Okay, I have a debit indicated by the account name on the left side of the particulars column. I have a credit portion of my entry, and it's indented to the right, and that's the fees earned account. Now I need a little explanation that explains or summarizes what happened in the transaction. I would just say something like this. A customer received, and I do short form here, I just do, that's my shorthand for received a manicure, comma, paid cash. And that's a journal entry. You have a date, you have a debit, you have a credit, you have an explanation, and you have an amount. That's it. And then you go into the next one, but when you do this, leave a space. So the next transaction, also the 31st, you don't have to write October again, but leave a space so that it's not all jammed up. The second transaction is that the business paid the rent of $3,000 with a check. The check number is 105. So instead of paying cash, the business sent a check to whomever they rent the property from. And the check is important information, and it's called a source document. And a source document is proof that something happened. So let's think about this transaction. You have rent happening. This is an expense. You paid for that expense with cash. So what went up? Your rent went up. your cash went down, and I know when cash goes down, that's a credit, and so that means that your expense account has to be a debit. So I'm going to debit rent expense $3,000 and credit cash $3,000. Debit rent expense, credit cash $3,000. And then the only thing I'm missing is an explanation. Paid the rent. I just do a short form for check. Check number 105. There it is. That's the general journal. No more T accounts. This is the real deal. This is the way business do it, albeit in an accounting, with accounting software, not by hand. But when you do these, I would print this handout. I would make it nice and neat, leave a space between your transactions, and make sure that you debit properly one account in your transaction, you credit an account in your transaction, you have an explanation of the transaction, a date, and an amount. And that's it. That's the general journal. Good luck with the work.